We have people do all kinds of crazy things to get customers taken care of. And I know a lady was in the checkout line at Walmart and her debit card wouldn't work one day. And a lady that runs our debit card department got the cash out of her account for her with the customer's permission, of course, and drove that to Walmart and delivered it to the customer. I mean, we just do whatever it takes to get the customer taken care of. And I think that's unique in today's banking environment.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting. I'd like to introduce Davil and Visser with Baptist St. Anthony's Healthcare System, who will give our opening invocation.
We just bow our heads and acknowledge that we are in your midst, God, as we pray. All good gifts come from you, and may our mayor and leaders of our city use those gifts of wisdom and discernment and listening ears to make decisions for the betterment of our community. Just help them listen and make the considerations that are necessary. We praise you and thank you for the freedom to address you with our needs. And also we ask your blessing upon our land and our area. May you grant us beneficial rains and the protection of many who are suffering through other weather-related situations. We give all to you, God, in faith and trust in your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You all would have a seat. We have a short presentation to make. This is sort of an unusual situation. We have a presentation to make, actually to one of our commissioners, to Jim Sims. So, Jared, if you bring this forward. This is actually a memento from the very, very historic signing of the documents with Mesa Petroleum to purchase the water. This is the commemorative pin that was issued and a copy of the invitation. Jim, come on up here.
All right.
So this says Jim Sims, City Commissioner, number 4. And it says, in recognition of your efforts on behalf of the city of Amarillo. Jim took, in many cases, the lead in some discussions and represented the city, and as a token for all the commissioners and the mayor, past mayor, and what they did, and also for the current commission, we'd like to present this to you in memory of what was done. It'll be a very historic event in the history of Amarillo. So,
well, thank you very much. Of course, I appreciate being part of this effort. Whatever good I did with it or for it, it was because I love this city. But this particular action will be heralded for years and years and years, and I'm talking 250, 300 years, that we will be blessed like no other community in the United States of America with adequate supply of water. So this was a good day. So thank you very much. Total surprise.
I might note that we are now the holder of more water rights than anyone in the state of Texas, except the state of Texas. And we probably have more volume, do we not, than the state of Texas?
We're number 3.
We're number 3.
East state of Texas, and then Cremwa.
Okay, Cremwa, excuse me, which is our partner.
We're 40%.
40% of Cremwa. Jim was in no way a small part of what these negotiations were, so we want to thank you, Jim.
You did. Thank you. Total surprise.
So, good afternoon and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Amarillo City Commission held on the 3rd floor of City Hall Tuesdays at 3 o'clock this week. First item of business for today's agenda is the minutes. Attached is a copy of the minutes. The minutes for approval are of the City Commission meeting from the regular meeting held on August 23rd, 2011.
Mayor, I would move for approval of those minutes as presented.
I second the motion.
Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes pass with a 5-0 vote. Second item of business is ordinance number 7293. This is the first reading of an ordinance changing the zoning of Lot 1, Block 1, Wolfman Place amended, and a .037 acre tract of unplanted land north of Lot 1, Block 1, Wolfman Place amended in Section 186, Block 2, a B&M survey, Potter County, in the vicinity of Wolfland Avenue and Washington Street, from Residential District 3 to Neighborhood Service District. This is recommended for approval by a 5-1 vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission. If we could get a presentation on this, Mr. Shaw.
I'd be happy to, Mayor. This request is to change the existing zoning ARC Residential 3 to Neighborhood Service District. The applicant is planning to expand the current two-totem store that's at the corner of Wolfland and Washington to upgrade that store to their new prototype store in order to accommodate better the footprint of the store, a few islands, and ingress and egress. The southern 3 residential lots would need to be rezoned. It's important to note that the building that's proposed is about the same size as the existing building. The current design of the site is very congested. It's very difficult to get in and out of the site. It's somewhat dangerous if you're trying to pull into the fuel islands. The new footprint and site plan, which would make this much more efficient and much safer, as well as add an aesthetic component with landscaping and screening, would all be part of this rezoning. The neighborhood service zoning that's being requested also is a much more restrictive zoning than just continuing the general retail, because if we do rezone, or if you do choose to approve this rezoning, it would have residential zoning and development to the south of it. So neighborhood services district would be much more restrictive as far as what would be allowed to do there. It would restrict uses such as restaurants or car washes, those things that by noise or traffic could generate some negative impacts. Basically, because of the area's zoning and development, you have a non-residential use directly to the west that would be parallel basically with this expanded zoning, so it would not impact any residential uses to the west. You have basically you have some non-residential office uses across the street to the west, as well as the Amarillo College campus area and buildings across or to the east. So in the general area, you do have non-residential development, and this this type of zoning would be or this type of non-residential use would not be out of place. However, by expanding southward, it is encroaching what we would call a little bit further into the neighborhood district by developing on 3 lots that currently have houses. But again, what staff is concerned about whenever this happens is, are we looking at setting a precedence by beginning a strip development or strip zoning situation along Washington Street? In this particular case, both staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission did not feel that would be a concern, as we would definitely recommend that this would be the most southern point at which any non-residential development would occur, given that it sides up adjacent both to the west and across to the east to other non-residential zoning. That, as well as the fact that this is a true neighborhood service use. It's a convenience store, and it's used a lot by the neighborhood residents in the area. In the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there were 3 residents in the immediate area that spoke in favor of the request, saying that they do use this often and that the current situation and the current configuration of the two-tone store as it exists today is dangerous, basically, and that this would also provide a safer environment as well as upgrade the look of that corner. We did have the property owner that is immediately adjacent to the south voice concerns. They were opposed to the request. Their concerns included additional traffic, concerns over how the lighting would affect their property, as well as any driveways to and from, to exit or ingress the site being so close to their property. So those were some of the concerns that they expressed. Planning and zoning commissioners originally tabled this request to allow the property owner to the south and Toot and Totem representatives to discuss any type of remedies or development standards that Toot and Totem may apply themselves to alleviate some of the property owner's concerns. They had the opportunity to meet. At last week's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, staff did discuss with Planning and Zoning Commissioners that any type of agreement that they may come to was entirely a private agreement, and that would not be part of some kind of development standards that we as city staff could enforce, but it does give them the opportunity to maybe work some things out themselves. However, staff recommended, again, because of the area's development and zoning pattern, the busy arterial that the property is fronting on already, that there would not be any additional negative impacts that probably aren't affecting the property currently. Planning and zoning commissioners felt that the request was appropriate and recommended approval of the request 5, 4, and 1 against.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the commissioners? Any questions? Any from the audience? Yes.
I don't think I need to go up there.
Please come forward, ma'am, and give your name and address.
Kathy Altman, 2105 South Lipscomb. I see the vote was 5 for, 1 against. Can we know the reason that the person who voted against, what was the reasoning on that?
Yes, the commissioner the planning and zoning commissioner who voted against it felt that the applicant could provide some additional safeguards for the property owner to the south.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions from the audience? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 7293.
Second. All those in favor of ordinance 7293?
Aye.
Abstaining?
Aye.
Against? That passes with a 4-1-0 vote. 1 abstention. 4-0-1. That's the first time we've had an abstention. Okay. That's right. Number 3, resolution public hearing. This resolution sets a date of September 20th, 2011 for a public hearing on substandard structures and waste accumulation located in the city. And Mr. City Manager Kelly, who's going to go through this?
Mayor, we'll have Mr. Shaw go through it. The item today is to set the date. So Kelly, if you would flip us between the 3 properties.
The first property is 8409 Interstate 40 East, basically on the northeast corner of Lakeside Drive and Interstate 40. The second property to be considered would be 1620 South Van Buren Street. The third property would be 2003 Southwest 7th Avenue.
And those, Mayor, would be considered on the 20th for ultimate action.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Yeah, Mayor, I move that we approve that date of September 6, 2011 for public hearing.
Second.
I'm sorry, let me correct.
Oh.
September 20th, 2011 for public hearing.
Okay, I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote. Notice of public hearing and proposed tax rate. The City of Amarillo will hold 2 public meetings on a proposed tax rate for maintenance and operation and for the debt service of the proposed 2011-2012 budget. The public hearing has been rescheduled and will be held on September 6th, 2011 at a 5:30 p.m. meeting and on September 9th, 2011 at 3 p.m. in the Commission chambers. Are there any comments about this item? Any discussion? Okay. I'll entertain a motion. No, we don't need a motion. Okay, good. We'll move on to the consent agenda. It is recommended that the following items be approved and that the city manager be authorized to execute documents necessary for each transaction. A is the award of Civic Center asbestos removal project. B is the award of airport leased hangar skylight replacement. C is the approval of tax increment reinvestment zone number 1 incentive project. D is the award of WIC building storage improvements. E is acceptance of aviation clear zone easement. Are there any items on the consent agenda that should be removed for separate consideration by the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion about the consent agenda items? Okay. Call for a vote then. All those in favor on the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That passes with a 5 vote. Much shorter meeting than last week. This concludes the regularly scheduled agenda for the Amarillo City Commission. It is, however, customary at this time to allow citizens of this community on matters pertaining to city policies, programs, and services to speak to the commission, and the floor is now open for those comments. Would anyone like to make a comment? If not, we thank you for being here today. Oh, excuse me.
Is this the open forum? I'm sorry, am I mixed up?
Yes, no, this is what we announced.
Okay. Last week,
Ma'am, if you could give your name and address.
Hermanitas, 1604 South Harrison. Last week, the room was filled with citizens that came from all different walks of life with concerns about the EB5. We were called fearmongers, I believe you called us. And the newspaper called us fearmongers also. I believe you owe the citizens of this town and those that come in front of you an apology. You also looked down on us like we were a bunch of little school children and gave us a lecture about Panhandle history, about Charles Goodnight, Mr. Adair, an Irishman. Well, there's a very big difference in EB5 and that kind of history. Mr. Adair, you yourself said, only came 3 times to the Panhandle. He did not come to change our way of life with his money and make us eat Irish stew and become Catholic either. You said we owed everything to him for Amarillo being what we are. One of my ancestors came here before Mr. Goodnight or Mr. Adair. His name was Juan Oñate, a conquistador that came after Coronado. He held the first Thanksgiving on the banks of the Rio Grande in New Mexico. The difference with that foreigner coming to this country was that he was greeted by the Indians and welcomed, and then he enslaved them and he cut their tendons of their feet, of their legs, so they could not run away. We have a great history here in the United States of foreigners. I myself am an immigrant. I did not come to this country to threaten anybody or to tell anybody how to live their lives. And I lead my life in gratitude and with honor for what this country has given to me. For you to treat us the way that you did last week, you need to treat us with a little dignity. All of you do. It is not easy for us to come in front of you. I'm shaking. I shake every time I come. It takes courage. And that's what the people came and showed you. When they came with concerns about foreign investors coming to our country and buying up our country, when I came to this country, it wasn't because I had $500,000 to buy my citizenship or to lead my life and tell people how they would lead theirs. We need to be careful who we let into our country. You ask Spain what they thought of the Moors taking over their country for 400 years. You know, it wasn't the government that got rid of the Moors in Spain. It was the people that said enough, and they got rid of them. Look at England, look at France, look at Holland. They're all changing their policies of being open and greeting everybody that comes into their country.
Sarah, I'd ask you to sit down. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say something? Okay. I would just like to say that reasonable people can disagree reasonably, and I disagree with you, and I stand by my statements last week, and I want to make sure that we don't make decisions based on fear. And I'm well versed.
And I stand on those words.
Ms. Sarah asked, you're out of order.
And I am well versed in Panhandle history in Texas. I've been doing it for a living for 30 years.
Are there any comments from the audience? Not, we appreciate you being, excuse me.
Trina Fournier, 4427 South Hayden. I know that Ms. Harris is very passionate about the EB5 thing. The City Council's, I guess I should kind of share your views about that. I don't really see it as a threat. It's not a particular certain people that are going to be only the ones allowed to use it. It could be foreigners from anywhere in the world. It's not just a particular group of people that are going to be coming here. And I don't think that people who would invest that kind of money to be able to come here would deliberately be trying to subvert our nation. So I disagree about that. I don't like the whole taxpayer funding with the state and federal grants. I talked about that last week. I feel like, though, that the City Council did kind of lump everybody that voted anything against the plan was all with those people who are just opposing the EB5 part. And that's not true for myself. I don't really care about the EB5 thing. But I do care about the fact that taxpayers are going to be footing the bill for this, be it through federal grants or state grants, or through funds from that Center City or DAI has that they're putting into it or whatever. So it seemed to me a lot more people who were just citizens came out to speak against the whole plan. Most of the people, the vast majority of the people who spoke out in favor of it were people who were on the Tiers Board, or they're in DAI, or they're part of Center City. That's kind of unequal. They kind of have a conflict of interest. To me, to be talking about a public thing is something that the people of the city should be, not just groups of people, small groups of people in the city should have a say about. So many more just regular citizens like myself came out and spoke out against it. And I think that should carry more weight than what people who are on these boards who've been working so hard to get it done, and they have a vested interest in pushing it forward. It's their reputation, perhaps some of their money is invested in it. And I just think that the citizens, the average everyday citizen, should have carried more weight with the City Council last week.
Thank you. Commissioner Reeds has a comment. Yeah, sir, if you'd wait for just a minute, please take your seat.
I'd like to comment. First of all, I want to thank you personally for your reasoned approach and your genuine concern. I really appreciate you coming down and giving your opinion, just like I appreciate everybody in this room. You're right, the folks that have been doing that heavy lifting on these committees have a vested interest. they don't have any financial interest. They just love the city like you and have gotten involved like I would hope you would. As the rest of you in the room, I would hope you would. But as we go about our business, I'm always out on the west end of town, other folks are in other parts of town, we get a lot of feedback all week. And so really our role is to carry the message forward that we're hearing in the community. And we hear this message, Ms. Heddes, we hear what you say, but we have a lot of additional feedback that runs counter to some of those things. And so we do respect what you have to say. That's, at least I can't speak for anyone else, that's just not the vast majority of the feedback I'm getting from people I come across day to day. So thanks for your comments.
Thank you. Sir, go ahead.
Steve Dawson, 7902 Prosper. Thank you for that. Congratulations on your award. Just as you say, that's the vast majority of what you hear is the same as what we hear. So we know where you're coming from, because we hear the majority of what we hear we bring to the meetings, and it just so happens it don't coincide with what you guys say. So we totally understand, at least I do, understand what you mean. But you know, in the past, opposition has been faced with no consideration at all from this commission or the previous one, from my experience. Just because a group of people disagree or come in opposed to something, they should not be categorized at that time. And if you guys would be honest with yourselves and thinking, in the past, up until this date, anytime something is opposed, somebody is categorized a different way. And that ought not to be. That's why we have so much tension and hostility in the things that we do. And we have so many people with so many different opinions, is because they're being told they can come before you and speak as a free citizen, and things that they say will be considered. But if it's in opposition to anything, that is being resisted heavily from that dais. And therefore it creates the tension, them against us kind of mentality. And that's the last thing we need in this city, is to have people divided by issues such as that. We've been such a close community. We've been such a town that's not too big to become closer than what we have, and we have history of that. And I think just because there's opposition to some of the things that's being said doesn't necessarily make everything that's being said wrong and out of order. I mean, I just would ask that you would in some way acknowledge us, or those that disagree in any way, that you have considered what the opposition was, and that you carefully, and that you did think about it. Now, I know a lot of things are not made at that point. A lot of decisions are made in previous meetings and dealings. We're not naive, we know that. But at the same time, if you honestly was to hear something from this podium that was put before you that you as a group didn't consider, didn't think of that, that's right. We didn't think of that. Would you at least give us that opportunity to say we're going to come back after we've discussed it again, and at least talk about that again? And I think a lot of that, if we can attempt to meet each other in the middle on some of these things, we wouldn't have so much disagreement on everything that we do, because everything you do is not bad, and everything we're against is not wrong. So if we could just get that, I think that would help a lot of folks that are not saying things today. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Mr. Dawson, if I could respond somewhat to that, because we missed it a little bit before. Keep in mind, for the last, 2 or 3 years, and I don't have a list that I've kept, but there have been many occasions where citizens have come to this commission with a problem or with a situation, and it was addressed, and things were changed, and they were accommodated. As we went through the literally hundreds of meetings regarding downtown redevelopment, there were all kinds of comments at every one of those meetings, and a lot of them had an impact. And as that plan progressed, it was fine-tuned, and people were listened to. When we got to the point that we did the other day to make that decision, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours study and input and discussion had taken place. And it wasn't that we weren't telling the people that were speaking against the proposition at the time that we didn't care what they had to say. It's that we had heard a lot of that before. A lot of it, I think, was misconceived. I think a lot of it was not correct, valid information. But, I mean, those things had been discussed. So it wasn't a snap decision in opposition to whatever it was that they were against and we were for. And I say that with as much sincerity as I personally can. We do listen and we do care. So I disagree a little bit with you.
But we're open to listening outside of this venue too, where we can have a more detailed discussion. I had probably, Mr. City Manager, how many meetings have I drugged you into, 20 or 30 in the last?
Yes, sir.
With groups that had concerns or questions, and I think it's important to keep that up. So I invite you anytime you would like to call me. My cell phone's on every one of my cards. Call me and we'll be happy to talk to you anytime you'd like. I appreciate it very much. Commissioner, come on forward. You can be the last one standing, possibly.
I'm Eddie Perez, Commissioner Precinct 2, and I live at 1101 South 70. I know how y'all feel when you're out there in the back as a commissioner, but one thing I can tell you that I have learned is to listen to the people. And when the people speak, it's what they mean. I feel that some of these people have been, I hate to say it, mistreated, some of them, and I have been here. I've been coming pretty often, and that's why I wasn't going to be here, so I can explain myself why. Because they have tried to explain themselves, and like this, people say that there were all business people out here instead of ordinarily working people. And the people that went to all these all-time meetings, if you had 1,500 people on all of them, you had a lot. There weren't that many, they weren't there about that much. That doesn't count the whole people of Amarillo. And like people from all here in Amarillo, they want to come here. But if they get attacked by certain commissioners, they're not going to be back. They said, there's no use. And there's some commissioners there that have been attacked to the people. Hey, do you take it personal? It's because if you don't like to get attacked by the people and their way of thinking of saying you did wrong, and you don't want to listen, even if you did wrong, you have to take it. If you take it personal and try to make a fight out of it, you lose. So there's a bunch of them, they won't get on you. And then you're not going to be there anymore. By experience, listen to the people and not feel this way. I know I have talked to some of the commissioners in here and right now, and I feel real comfortable when I talk to them. We have had good conversations. And I hope the way the people, I come to you all, is how I want people to be treated. But people don't know the history of Texas. Everybody knows the history of Texas. I know where I came from. Nobody can tell me the good night or anybody else can tell me these things about Texas. I've learned Texas history. I was educated, but like I said, you got to listen to the people because there's more people out there that want to come here and express themselves. I love Amarillo. I never did say that. And the newspaper criticized me. But there's only one reason they criticize me. They don't want me to be there. But like I said, I love Amarillo and I'm going to stay in Amarillo.
Commissioner, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Something I've often wondered about. We do feel that it is important to listen. But I would ask you a question. I don't know how this transpired, but your commission, Potter County Commission, does not accept any public comment at the end of their meeting. It's impossible for somebody to get up and make any of these comments that we've heard today at your meeting. Why is that?
There is. They can. They have
changed?
Yes.
That changed?
Well, it's changed about, well, since I've been there. Everybody's open. After the meeting, it says on the agenda.
Okay.
And there's any comments, and they're welcome.
Good.
And if they, like I said, sometimes you take things personal, Mayor. You just can't. You just got to have a thick skin to be able to, but you can't challenge everybody. Some people say I think they would fight words, but you know, you got to take it. I get out head sometimes. I can say that much, but anyway, I just do the best. up to all the people. And I represent my precinct and all the people of the precinct. Thank you. But it's open. Did you answer? Is that okay? I mean, is that okay what I just said? I mean, you know what I'm trying to say? It's open. Any day, time you want, any people wants to express themselves, it's open to speak. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Carolyn Thornton at 1947 South Mars, and I just have 3 comments. We'll never make everyone happy. We can agree to disagree, and we can also be civil on both sides.
I appreciate this.
That's our duty.
Certainly is, and I appreciate those comments. Any other comments from the audience?
Charles Ward, 4122 Church Drive. Concerning the EB5, that's my concern with this whole thing. And we were told last week that the federal, don't worry about these people that's being brought in on EB5. Federal government's going to check them out. Is that the same federal government that sold high-powered rifles to the drug cartel in Mexico, in spite of the fact that they were called by at least 2 gun dealers in Houston, letting them know that somebody's up to something because they're buying too many weapons? And one other thing, I know y'all have a reason for not putting that deal up for a vote. I'd like to know what it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Not, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.